What is up, guys, and welcome back to another Odd Popcorn for that review. I am Chris.
And I'm Nick.
Today we're going to talk about a movie called A Field in England. So this was came out in 2013, and it was directed by Ben Wheatley, who actually neither of us are very familiar with his other works. But this is a kind of a small movie as far as it's only 90 minutes long, and it's a very small cast and pretty bare bones budget. It looks like, and pretty you know fairly singular location. So.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's all shot in black and white. And it looks I didn't mention this to you, but it looks like it's a good thing it wasn't very expensive because it
Yeah.
didn't make any money.
Yeah.
Nobody saw this. Uh, and if you're watching this, you probably didn't see it either. Um, but what did you think about this movie?
I don't know. It felt like a fever dream. It
Mm-hmm.
was really strange. Didn't really know what was going on, what was if anything was real, if they were alive, if they were dead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was weird.
There's things about it I like, but it's just like a big what does that mean is what that because I don't know. It feels like it sacrificed. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say sacrifice. I feel like it chose to forego narrative structure and plot and story and all that in favor of like it's sort of just a story about this one of the four, five,
Yeah, five.
four guys. I guess it's five, right?
Yeah.
One of the five guys in this field is um he was like working for an alchemist.
Yeah, some like
Um, like
intellectual aristocrat
maybe an
guy.
alchemist's apprentice or something like that, and then another person who was working for him. And tell me if I'm lost here. It's the story's pretty. I don't know, but I guess somebody runs off with this guy's all of his paperwork and this special like mirror that's like a black stone, some other things that are very important,
Sounds about
and
right.
the story is basically just that this guy who's very timid and doesn't want to break any of the rules and doesn't want to do anything wrong and doesn't
A
he doesn't drink and
self-proclaimed
he
coward, basically. Yeah, that's what he.
yeah it's sort of him getting his powers or like or welcoming in maybe the dark side or maybe like
Maybe.
he kind of becomes like I mean spoiler I guess it's hard to spoil this movie but I guess he kind of becomes the wizard at the end or becomes a wizard at the end or
Yeah, something.
I'm not really sure what I was supposed to get out of the end except that like I mean, so the basic plot is this guy Whitehead. So Whitehead is the character I'm talking about, kind of our main character, and they're all like deserters of the English Civil War, I think,
That's what it seemed
and
like. Yeah.
and this guy played by if you know the guy from the Mighty Boosh, what's his name again? Jul-
Julian Barrett.
Julian Barrett. Julian Barrett from the Mighty Boosh
Very
is
small
looking
part.
for this guy, and just as he finds him and is about to kill him, um, another character, Cutler,
Yeah.
like stabs him through the chest, and so that's the end of him. And really, not much is happening right now. I mean, that's kind of it, and we don't know. We're kind of collecting a cast here, but there's not a whole lot to go on. We meet a guy Jacob, and then there's another guy who
Just called friend.
is just called Friend, and they kind of play out this movie as though it's supposed to be like a heartfelt like friendship story, like these people finding each other in this time of turmoil and clinging on to each other as some kind of hope, and their friendship is stronger than the what. I'm not sure I got that out of it
I mean, they
because
were fighting with each other the whole time too. It seemed like.
but then they talk like they're so you know what I'm saying, like they talk
Yeah,
like we've really
we've really bonded and grown together.
we've really bonded.
But then they're
Anyway,
also
I
like,
don't even.
screw this guy.
And there's like a thing with mushrooms, and they make a soup or a stew or something with a bunch of mushrooms in it, and the only one who doesn't eat it is Whitehead, and it's because he's fasting.
Well, and
And so,
Coulter as well, who is the guy who made the soup, or
mm,
Cutler.
and so everybody's kind of hallucinating, but it's not really. They don't do anything interesting with that. At least this
Yeah.
time they don't. And so it's kind of like he's like weakened all of their inhibitions or something. Anyway, they end up there's a scene that I was so confused by, and I
Me
watched
too.
it twice, and I was like, I guess I'm gonna be confused by this, but like, I guess this guy who they've been looking for, who is the one who stole this stuff from the alchemist. Stop me when I say something that's incorrect here, but I guess they've been looking for him, and he's in the ground or
I
in
I have no
the
idea. I don't. They don't really make a point to it. They don't make a point to show when, why this happened. They're all like just
something
pulling on a rope, and it's kind of
something with a rope happens, and they're all
and
pulling with all their might on this rope, and the rope's wrapped around like a weirdly carved post in the ground.
and yeah, and it shows that, but then it's like, oh, they're kind of like, oh, are we pulling a body? And then all of a sudden it kind of goes to him, and like it's not even wrapped around a stake; it's just wrapped around a body, and they're all struggling so hard to pull this, but it's four dudes that would be pulling one guy that would be easy. I have no idea what was going on in
So
this
I
movie.
guess they pull him out of the ground. I don't know. And
I don't
then
know.
uh nothing is surprising about that to anyone, that we have to pull a guy from the ground, or it's not even shown that that's I don't know. It's all this is a very like art house. Like
Hmm.
he's trying a bunch of experimenting with camera stuff and
Which
sound
I
and
did like the
everything.
sound and the cinematography quite a bit.
The cinematography is cool. I like a black and white movie from now and again, especially when it's done with this like this harsh contrast put on it. Like the blacks are pitch black, like you're
Yeah,
peering into a hole in the ground black, and so that part's cool enough. Um, but this guy just all of a sudden, and it's not this is not particularly explained well either, unless it's just the movie's so weird. Maybe this is all I'm supposed to get from it, and I'm just overthinking it because the movie's so bizarre. But like maybe it's just that he could kill him at any moment. But he just sort of immediately takes leadership over this group of
cause
people, and he's the boss now. Like they were
yeah,
free people, and now they're not, and
it's
it
like
happens all of a sudden.
he's like kind of like a wizard or something is what they make it seem like. Like he
Yeah,
has these powers, but
maybe he's
I
like
don't know.
Jedi mind tricking him into
Maybe
whatever,
yeah.
whatever. And then pretty soon there's a scene where they go into a tent, and he takes Whitehead into the tent and does something to him, and then tortures him in some kind of way in this really grating, irritating,
Hmm.
long scene of screaming and moaning and crying and screaming, and there's just extreme pain from the tent, and everybody's freaking out hearing him being tortured in there. And then there's the scene that I think like people seem to think is sort of like the most horrifying scene from this, and I'm not sure I agree, but it's Whitehead coming out of the tent with like a rope wrapped around him in a way like it's almost like a harness, like he's almost on a leash, and he's walking out of the tent in slow motion for a long, like extreme slow motion for a long time with this like crazed, lost his mind look on his face. And I guess that's the moment he's just been his spirit's been broken by the wizard O'Neill, and he's turned him into like a human divining rod. So he's going to
Yeah,
use him on a leash to take them to this treasure that he's decided is out here. I don't even remember why he thinks there's treasure out there.
I don't either.
Um, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't really yeah.
No. So he uses him to, and then he stops at this one spot, and he tells them to dig.
Which
They
by the
all
way,
start digging.
they run around for like 5 minutes, and then the spot that they get back to is like 15 feet in front of the tent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So uh, so um so we find that, so now everybody's digging, and the one guy, which one is it, Jacob?
Probably
I
Jacob.
think
Yeah.
it's Jacob, is starting to get real. I don't know if it's the mushrooms from the soup that are getting to him, or if it's what's happening to him exactly, but he starts saying like, I'm a free man and no one's my master, or something like that. He has this like chant, and he gets irritated with Friend, and they're digging with him, and they start having a fight. And then for some reason Cutler starts just peeing on them inside of this hole, and they go to like attack him or something, and somehow the gun either goes off or on purpose. I don't know, I think it's an accident, but friend gets shot and dies in there. Cutler doesn't seem to care. I don't even know whose side Cutler's on or if we like
Well, I think it
Cutler.
seems like Cutler was working for O'Neill and like brought these guys to him to help
Okay.
find this
Well, he doesn't
treasure.
seem. It seems like it's an accident, but he's like not apologetic. He's just. It's just like
Whatever.
another another homicide. I guess I'll just whatever. And so he's so the that wakes up the wizard O'Neill. He's like, oh, he looks like he dug his own grave, but we gotta not till we find the treasure. So we gotta get him out of here, and you guys get back to work. And yeah, and so they take Whitehead takes him over in the grass, and he's like the most, he's like, oh, we're gonna give you a Christian burial. We're gonna make sure everything's right. And then there's this moment where he's just laying down in the grass next to the body, and then O'Neill realizes they're gone now, so he goes off to look for him, and he's like yelling out for him, and he can't find him in the tall grass. He's just laying down in the tall grass, and in a moment of I don't know, he's like losing it. I guess he crawls through the grass and finds this huge strip of all these hallucinogenic mushrooms, and he yells out at the wizard and says something about like I don't know. I didn't write down the speech or whatever, but he says something about like I'm gonna consume the earth, and I don't know. It's very like kind of written in like a kind of poet. The speech in this movie is interesting too. It's like kind of old English, kind of not.
Hmm.
Like,
It
I don't
it
know.
very much felt like the opposite of Asteroid City, where that felt like you're watching a movie about a play, and I felt like I was watching a play about a movie. In this one,
Mm,
kinda like it felt very much like I was watching a play.
I can see that a little bit, yeah. Um, but he says whatever he says, and just stuffs a ton of these hallucinogenic mushrooms in his mouth, and that seems to give him uh,
Magical
enough,
powers.
yeah, powers that so he conjures like this huge windstorm, and the wind is just throwing everything around. It destroys the tent with all the stolen paperwork and all that in it, and it's just destroying everything around. But you never hear the wind; you just see the wind blowing, and then they're talking to each other in like this weird hushed tones. It's almost like they can communicate in this. They're moving their mouth, so I guess not telepathically or something,
Hmm.
but they're talking to each other, and the wind doesn't have any bearing on that. Like they just they did all the sound recording later, and but it's like real quiet. Like yeah, I guess I did. I guess I can conjure windstorms now. I don't even know what they're saying.
Yeah.
Uh, and then there's a shootout scene with Jacob and the wizard, and he's able to uh, wound Jacob fatally ultimately, but Jacob wounds him in the leg, and then at the kind of at the very end, Whitehead goes over, shoots the wizard in the back of his head, and it's a real gruesome scene because it blows his face off.
Yeah.
And I mean the practical effects in this were good, by the way,
Yeah.
I should say.
They were. Just
But
like got
then
so
it's
lost in the story too, because when that shootout happened, it happened because friend shows up,
again alive
no
somehow,
alive,
no wounds.
no wound or anything. He's like, wizard, they're over here, and it's like,
Hey, yeah, O'Neill, he goes, devil, they're over here.
I don't know
Why
if,
did he do that?
yeah,
And
that's
then
what.
he doesn't act like it's not like he's supposed to be evil now.
Well, no,
Is
because
he so stupid?
I think I don't know. It was
Because he's like trying to prove his friendship. He's like, oh, you're probably mad at me now that I'm baby. And he's talking to Jacob, and it's like, yeah,
he
yeah,
got
that
me
was the wrong
shot.
thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm gonna show you that I'm a good friend. And he like goes to kill the wizard O'Neill with this spear or something like that, and
Hmm.
doesn't make it. Gets blown away. I don't know what the point of that. How many times is this guy have to die? And then at the very end, uh, Whitehead has donned. He buries his friends in the grave. Oh, it ended up being there is no treasure. There's just a human skull in there, and Cutler shoots it out of anger that it's
Hmm.
not treasure.
And Cutler gets
Yeah.
murdered by the wizard too for some reason.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't really remember why.
Yeah.
But there's like a moment where Jacob's dying, and he's like, maybe the treasure's Whitehead's like, maybe the treasure is this, our friendship and everything. And I'm like, bro, your your friendship is terrible and extremely short-lived and
Yeah.
tumultuous and rose out of like a horrible situation, and nothing good is happening for anybody. Like there's a lot of like I'm not even gonna go into detail. I don't know how much people would want me to go into detail, but there's a lot of gross stuff in here, like stuff with genitalia and
Oh
stuff
yeah.
with defecation and stuff
Yeah.
with. there's a lot of like gross out human body, whatever, and to some extent this is played out as like a black comedy, but like pitch black, you know. But
Yeah.
you can tell there's like a little humor that's supposed to be in there here and there, but it's really gross, a lot of it. And
There
but yeah,
wasn't
so he.
there was like
Oh, go
another
ahead.
thing that was really weird is like there were like 4 or 5 shots during the movie that were kind of like they were all just standing there having their portrait drawn. They're all just like standing
Yeah, it's
like
sort of like punctuated
and
by
then it
that.
and it zooms in on each person. I have no idea what that was about.
I guess it's just a artistic choice, but it's
I guess.
strange because
Yeah.
they're not like it's not like actual still frames. They're all frozen. They're like they're doing the mannequin challenge. Like you can see
Mhm.
their hair moving in the wind and stuff, and they're all just like.
I didn't get the point.
Uh, but and so at the very end, he Whitehead dons the uniform basically of this evil wizard dude and is able to collect up all of the stuff that from the alchemists stuff that was stolen. I don't know how he's able to gather all that up. I guess magical abilities or whatever. And then he walks and runs into Friend again, looking alive as ever. And then it's also Jacob, and it's also him.
Yeah.
And then it's just the three of them standing there. He's looking at himself and no longer dead, Jacob and Friend. And
Yeah,
that's literally the end of the movie. Like they're not going to give you any more than that. I don't know.
that's what I kind of was like wondering about if like any of it was real, if they were maybe in hell or in because there is like a line earlier that's like if you don't believe in going to hell, then you're already living in it or something like that. And I was like, well, maybe they are dead. Who knows?
There is a. It's not quite that, but there is a line about hell. But I don't think that's. I don't think that's. It's not obvious that that's what's going on here by
I
any
don't think it
means.
is. I don't know what it was honestly.
So I don't know what. I don't know what to say about it. It's an interesting looking movie, and it's only an hour and a half. You know, you might like it a lot. People seem to
Yeah,
like if you look on like Letterboxd or something. There's a lot of people that love this, but I guess you would know. You'll probably know in the first few minutes of this movie if it's going to be for you or not. It doesn't get. It never gets easier to understand. I'm not sure you should really dig into this movie and try to find the point because I'm not sure that's the idea of the movie. Like I'm not sure there is a deeper meaning to glean here. Do you?
I don't think so. I really it was just an art
So
house
maybe
movie, I
it's for
think.
you, but it is just what it is. It is just an art house movie with not a lot to really say unless you know just in terms of like art for art's sake kind of thing. But it's not a recommend for me, unfortunately. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't really have a good time with it.
Maybe if you're on drugs, because there are some trippy scenes in it, but other than that,
Yeah,
the
this is a
story is
great
real.
recipe for a bad experience.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It probably wouldn't be a good one.
Yeah. So I don't know. How do you rate this? What would you give this thing? I don't know.
I don't know, like a 2.5. So I'm not recommending it.
Yeah, I give it like a 3
Yeah,
out of 10. I mean, it's yeah, it's below average for me. You know, if you like this art, if this director's other work, if you're more familiar than us, then maybe this is a great one. Maybe you know it might be one of those things where the guy has a certain style and people like it or they don't. I know like somebody like Yorgos Lanthimos, you know, the guy who did like The Lobster and
hmm
stuff like that. Like he has a very characteristic style. A lot of people like it, and I can totally see people not liking it. So maybe this is like that. So you know, give it your own watch. Um, but I don't even know how to define it as a genre.
I don't either.
Like
I
because it's
really
not
don't.
exactly a horror movie. It's not. It's certainly not just a black comedy. I wouldn't think that's its
I
strongest
didn't
suit
even
is
get
the
any
comedy.
comedy out of it, honestly. I just was like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, yeah. I guess I'm done beating up on this movie. You know, it is what it is. 3 out of 10, 2.5 out of 10.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So if you guys like this kind of content, give us a like below, share it with your friends, and also comment maybe like some strange like off kilter movies that you like in spite of their weirdness because I don't know what genre this is I would say you know maybe your favorite horror movies or your favorite whatever but this isn't easy to define here so just some off kilter unusual movies that you like but yeah we definitely want to hear from you guys below and yeah thanks for watching again and we will see you next time.
we'll see ya.